Welcome back. My name is Chris.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Streaming Things, the show where each week we find the best, the brightest, the strangest shows and films available to watch from your home in an ocean of streaming networks vying for your attention. We are your lighthouse, your beacons of broadcast, your curators of content. That's the service that we offer, and you are welcome. We are live.
Yeah, dude, we've been putting in some work today.
We're live, pal.
Andy, are you okay?
I'm okay, man. We got there in the end.
I know that you are very exhausted, you and Steve.
You know, as Bill O'Reilly once said, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Nothing could go wrong. Nothing could go wrong.
I like how we mentioned Bill O'Reilly and your face went,
Yeah, I literally was like,
Where are we going with this one?
I trust you, Steve, but I'm a little concerned. Well, my brain actually went Bill Maher, and that wasn't any better.
That's not any better now.
And then I realized who you really meant, and it was actually significantly worse somehow. And I was like, oh no. Anywho, so if you would like to email the show, we're going to get it right out of the way early on. You can email us at streamingthingspod@gmail.com. That's streamingthingspod@gmail.com. Send us your letters, love or hate. We love to read them. So the joke's on you for the hate mail writers. You can also call us if you'd like, that archaic form of communication. You can call us and leave a voicemail at what number, Steve?
You know, I'm so unprepared. Oh, here it is. It's 859-757-4051. 859-757-4051. Andy, you found something out about our phone number for those of you who are...
I did. International listeners, you can call us through Skype.
Yeah, if you don't
Just
want
dial
those...
that same number.
Yeah, if you don't want those, international charges on your phone, but you still want to call in and leave us a voicemail, you can just do it through Skype.
Yeah, if you're in, like, say, Belgium or one of those other countries.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We don't want
En français.
We don't want to highlight any specific Belgians out there.
Yeah. No, just saying. That's the first one I could think of, Anywho, so we also now have a Patreon.
What?
Yes, indeed. So if you would like to support the show financially, defray the cost of paying for the RSS feeds, going to see movies, paying $30 to view them at home. Thank you, Disney. All those things that we pay for to get this show up and running. We would very much appreciate that. And you can do so by going to patreon.com/streamingthings. So that's very simple.
There's all kinds of fun stuff you can get in there. There's different tiers. And the big tier, I think, that a lot of people are going to be talking about on the streets, the word that people are going to be spreading out on the streets is that you can get bonus episodes by being a Patreon member.
Yes.
Only exclusive to Patreon members.
True. That's very true. Our tier names are as follows, right?
Here we go.
Here we go.
Our first tier is friends.
Hi, friend.
Okay. So you're going to be friends of the show. Our second tier is friends with benefits.
I love that Randy Newman song.
Yes.
Friends with benefits.
No. Different song. That's his later career.
Benefits.
You got a friend with benefits.
Our third tier is family, but it was almost Step on Me Daddy.
There was a solid. We only settled on these tier names maybe an hour ago, and maybe for a good 5 hours this afternoon, that tier was Step on Me Daddy.
I had full confidence in you guys. I was rewatching the Suicide Squad, running errands for the house, working on show notes. They're going to handle this. In fact, I had seen the template for the Patreon weeks ago. How much could it change? Because that one was approved by me, right? And then they ran it by. We changed some things up. Tier 3 is Step on Me Daddy. Why? And it doesn't matter why. But it's now family, which in conjunction with what it used to be makes it sound weird still, but it's not. You'll just have to check it out and read it. Go to patreon.com/streamingthings and read it. But the last tier is called Thanks Mom, because there's just a level of commitment and support in that tier that we know it's our mother.
Yeah, it's so high and ridiculous. We don't expect any real person to give it to us except for our moms.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But you could all be our mothers with a simple click of a button.
I'm a mother lover. And
Indeed.
Indubitably.
Indeed you are. Steve, mother loving May. I fucked that up. Mother May. Mother May. The alliteration messed me up. All right. As we mentioned, we are live on multiple venues, but most importantly on Twitch right now. So you can go to at any time that we're streaming, typically on Saturday evenings, and we'll let you know in advance. This is going to become a thing. you can go to twitch.tv/streamingthingspod. And I want to check my notes because I didn't want to screw that. We got a couple different social media things and iterations.
A lot of stuff's been going on today.
Yeah, lots of stuff to figure out. Templates and overlays and buttons and hotkeys. I don't know about any of that stuff. I'm over here with my pen and paper.
We got there in the end, dude. Check it out. I'm going to hit this little button.
Boom.
Now it's you.
I don't know what you did, but I love it.
If we have anybody watching on Twitch, they would have saw that.
That's twitch.com. No, damn it.
So most of
Twitch.tv/streamingthings.
most of you are probably listening. You opened up your podcast app on Monday or Tuesday, whenever you download your podcast, and you're listening to the show right now, and you're like, oh, they're on Twitch now. That's interesting. If you ever want to get a little sneak peek on the show, maybe Mondays are just too late. You just really want to have that fix of like, oh, what did Streaming Things think about whatever culturally relevant properties out? Where you can tune in on Twitch, and we'll probably release it on the YouTube before Monday as well. And, you can watch the video of us talking and recording the show before it even comes out on the podcast. So I'm just throwing that out there. If Monday is not soon enough to get your next Streaming Things fix, you got options, my friend.
Sure. Absolutely. Or if you just wanted to see, sometimes you just want to watch.
Yeah. What do these hunks with these sexy voices look like? They've gotta be having like 9-packs and chiseled jawlines and full heads of hair.
And as Chris pointed out earlier, when I get nervous, I pull my nipples out. Yeah. So stay tuned.
I've seen Andy's nips so much more than I ever wanted. In the
That
past
thought you wanted. Yeah, that makes him a very poor job interviewee. He's currently unemployed.
My shirt starts creeping up.
So I see
His resume's strong.
5 years of experience, and why is your nipple out?
Just what I do when I get nervous.
I got nervous.
And then finally, the last little bit of social media biz. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/streamthingpod. That's at streamthingpod if you're already in the Twitter app. Just throwing that out there if you're a tweeter. If you tweet tweets from time to time. You can't tweet fleets anymore, but you can still tweet tweets.
Did they get rid of fleets?
Fleets is gone.
Oh, no.
It was very fleeting.
It was weak fleet.
Oh.
Indeed. I'm not the first one or the last to make that joke. Fleets were fleeting. Any hoozle. That brings us to Check the Gate.
Checking the gates. Checking the gates. Checking the gates, please. Checking the gates. Checking the gates. Checking the gates. Check the gates.
Check the gate. Watch them. Check the gate. Show what you got. Check the gate. Check it.
Almost.
That was so close.
Check the Gate is the segment where each week we here at Streaming Things bring you the hottest, freshest, steamiest takes in film and TV news that you can hear literally anywhere else instead.
You heard it here third.
But we contribute. So I got a few things of interest this week. The first image you may have heard for the Amazon Lord of the Rings show that's going to come out in 2022 was released. Did you guys happen to check this out?
I saw that, yes.
Are you big Lauder fans? That's Lord of the Rings.
Is that what
Lauder? Yes.
Is that all the hobbits are calling it these days?
I think so. No, it's more what the elves say. The dwarves just say.
I feel like the elves would be like, it's actually Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
we
they're
don't
more articulate.
abbreviate shit.
Yeah, we've got all the time in the world. No need for abbreviations. That's true.
Yeah, I bet hobbits would love hashtags. I'm just saying.
They would. Why wouldn't they?
Hashtag Lauder.
Your love of the halflings, Leaf, Steve, has clouded your mind.
That's true.
But anyway, it's a beautiful image you can see because this show is famously costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Amazon's, also famously low on cash. So we're all concerned about what they're going to do if this show fails. But
their money troubles are out of this world.
What's so endearing is like the diehard fans of Lord of the Rings, when they're looking at this image, the way that they break it down. Like there's a site called inverse.com where some fellow nerds went to break this image apart, and just the way that they get into it, it just tickles me pink, because they're breaking it down and they're like, look, at first glance, it's easy to assume the first image is a Numenorian city, right? And they just say it like with such like nonchalance, like, of course it looks Numenorian. It makes sense given the show's confirmed second age setting and the fact that Numenor itself was a key location during that time period. However, closer inspection makes it clear the city seen in the image is absolutely not Numenorian, but rather a location in Valinor, better known as the Undying Lands.
Yeah.
Duh.
You filthy casuals, come on.
But it's exciting nonetheless. I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and I'm excited to see this. This is right around the time period that the rings were forged, so we might get some Kate Blanchett action back in this show because she would still be alive. Galadriel would be gifted the ring, one of her, what was it, 7 rings? Or was it 9 to the elves?
3 to the dwarves, 5 to elves, and 9 to men.
9 to men. That's right. Why do men get more?
I don't know. Isn't that some bullshit?
Everything for all time is always more and better with men. Anyway, so that's the Amazon Lord of the Rings show. Also, a couple sales took place that I wanted to talk about. I know we're not a business show, but it's very much related to streaming and how streaming is going to take over the movie theater business potentially, thanks to this pandemic that we're going through. So Reese Witherspoon sold Hello Sunshine, like her production network, for $900 million.
I've never heard of Hello Sunshine.
So Hello Sunshine does a lot of content type things. It was the production company behind Big Little Lies, the miniseries on HBO. Did you guys watch that show?
No, what was
First
but
episode,
there was
I
that
think.
other show that they produced on HBO that I did watch. Shoot, what was it? It had Amy Adams in it.
I know what you're talking about. It's damn it. It's a kind of a horror, darker show.
Sharp
Objects.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes,
that's what it was.
exactly. So they've had a lot of success with these miniseries. They're high production value, really good stories, really good shows. Big Little Lies is fucking amazing. I watched season 1 and season 2. Season 1's phenomenal and season 2's okay. But the important thing about that, $900 million. So it was to a company called Blackstone, I believe. And so they're not like trying to build their own streaming network. They're trying to become like a streaming juggernaut. They're also in talks. There's people trying to buy Viacom CBS right now. We already talked about last week how people are trying to buy A24. So what I'm getting at is it's big news in the sense that all these companies are trying to scoop up all this like future content because they know this is where the money is going to be made in the future. Like whatever network can have the biggest, most popular IP is going to survive, potentially when theaters are a relic of the past, or people
Definitely
like
made
us
much more niche.
Yeah, like people collect vinyl records still, right? So they're always going to exist, but will it be the mainstay that it is now or was a couple years ago? It's becoming less and less likely, unfortunately. So related to that, creators of South Park, Trey Parker, Matt Stone. Is that even polite to say anymore? Because they've done so much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're musical, Tony Award
won
winners.
so many Tonys. Yeah. They're
So Book of Mormon creators, also South Park, you know who they are, Trey Parker, Matt Stone. They just struck a deal with Paramount Plus, also for $900 million that they would.
That must be the number, like the starting bid, $900 million.
We don't want to go full Billy on this.
Right.
And they're like, understood. Oh, sorry. I said Billy. Sorry, Billy.
the ghost of Billy.
So they're supposed to what?
in my house.
I think it's like 5 seasons of South Park and the next 14 films, something like that.
Yeah, I saw 14 films, or it's an astronomical amount of like movies that they're
6 seasons
making.
of South Park and 14 movies on Paramount Plus.
Some of which are apparently spin-off South Park movies, which I'm there for.
Yeah, they're just bigger, longer, uncut, or the South Park with a Q special. Those are movies to them, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there are a lot of them. Are
The bigger, longer,
South Park
uncut and
related.
got like theatrical release and stuff. I don't think that their pandemic specials did.
You know what I would love? What would make me sign up for Paramount Plus, because I refuse to at this moment, is not that Steve. He's unzipping his jacket.
I'm trying to unzip my
But
jacket.
you work for Paramount
quietly.
now? He's like, what? What would it be, Chris? Would it be this?
No, I'm just trying to unzip it quietly, and it just came off as way more creepy looking.
super creepy. Would be if they did a Book of Mormon style filming edit in the vein of Hamilton, a la HBO Max. That I would sign up. I would love to watch that, because there's no way I'm ever going to see Book of Mormon. There's no way I'm ever going to see Book of Mormon.
This is so funny. Like we record the podcast here in Andy's dining room so often.
And this has never happened.
The day we start streaming and using fucking cameras so people can watch us record, his lights are flickering.
Oh, dude, don't worry about it. Like, it's buffering so bad. It's chopping. I don't even know if that got picked up in the stream. It's
Okay.
all fucked right now. Don't worry about it.
Cool.
I'm just chilling over here watching the house burn.
Well, there goes my deposit.
Anyway, so that's the big news on that. And then moving on, Spider-Man No Way Home. Have you guys seen the trailer?
The trailer
is there
dropped?
a trailer?
No, there's not a trailer.
You bamboozled me, Chris.
That's the news. I tricked you. I just want to know what you guys thought, because there's a lot of talk in fellow nerd circles about this is ridiculous. You know, it's going to be out in 3 to 4 months. There should be at least a teaser by now, probably 1 or 2 full-fledged trailers. It's bizarre that there hasn't been one released. Is it for a reason? Like, people are a little frightened. Like, is it because there's all this fervor for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to be in this movie because of the multiverse, that they're like, oh shit, we didn't do that and we didn't mean to imply that, we're just not going to release a trailer? Like, or is it for a marketing reason? Like, hey, they're talking about how there is no trailer so much that it's more action than if there was a trailer.
That's the thing about MCU, dude. No news is news, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's how much people are vying for this content. But I don't know if it helps them one way or another. You know, people are gonna see that movie.
Right. I mean, it's not like they even, that baffles me that they spend $180 million making something like Avengers Endgame and then $180 million on advertising. I think they call it P&A, product and advertising, whatever. It's called P&A, like that segment of a movie production budget.
Right.
And like,
it's usually
you need
double
to spend $200 million to advertise Avengers Endgame. Like, it sounds unnecessary. I was definitely going to watch that. You know what I mean?
I wonder if this trailer not coming out may be pandemic related, in terms of like, they're not super confident that there won't be lots of shutdowns in the near future. So they're just like, why release a trailer that has a date on it? I don't know. That may not be it. The only reason I bring that up is the recent Venom trailer came out last week, and that famously didn't have a release date on it. It was just like coming out in the fall ? Which, you know, fall's literally like what, a month away at this point?
Yeah.
2 months away.
Yep. Calendarly speaking, Steve. Yes.
So if it was really coming out in fall, they would have a hard date.
Gregorian about it.
Yeah. If you want to get all Gregorian about this,
If you want to get calendar man about this.
I just thought it was worth mentioning. Sidebar. Did you know that the song by Eminem for the film Venom, he doesn't actually say venom a bunch of times? There's other words in there. He's rhyming it with things.
No.
I know it's not related, but you know the part I'm talking about where he's like, venom, 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 venom. It sounds like he's just going venom, venom, venom. He's not. There's other words in there. And I just found this out recently, and I thought I would share that with you guys. So
Today I learned.
You could be edified. Yeah, I was today years old. Anyhoozle. Also, one final bit of news, and this is related to my very heart and the heart of this show. Stranger Things Season 4, long overdue.
Yes.
Will not premiere until 2022.
Sad, but we got a little bit of a teaser.
We got a new
that
teaser.
had new footage,
I did.
which, you know, it wasn't a lot. It was maybe what, like 10 shots of new footage. Most of the teaser was old stuff from previous seasons, but I mean, there was one shot in particular, was a creepy looking Godfather clock or grandfather clock. Ooh, something about that.
No, it's a Godfather clock.
But something about that imagery was like, ooh, I don't know what this is about, but I am liking what I see.
So for newer listeners, you know, our bread and butter at one point in time was the show Stranger Things. That's why it's called Streaming Things. It's a play on Stranger Things. And a lot of people got a lot of enjoyment out of us breaking down each episode one at a time. So if you're a huge Stranger Things fan, you should go back and listen to those old episodes. They are available on our YouTube channel and in your podcast feed, most definitely. That's kind of why we're here still. We actually just wanted to keep things going once Stranger Things was on pause. Little did we know it would be 2.5 years between season 3 and season 4. That is crazy and very sad to me, but it is what it is. Moving on down, our next segment is coming down the stream, and we're going to talk about, it's a newer thing.
Yep. No music yet.
Yeah, no music yet, but we're going to be talking about shows and films that are coming out on each streaming network. So that way you know that they're coming. You can put them in your calendar. Speaking of, if you want to get all Gregorian on it and plan on what's coming. So I got a few things to note. I'll move quickly through them because I know we're dragging on. I want to get to Suicide Squad coming out on Hulu. And this will be on August 9th. So it's the day you're listening to this, most likely, is a show called Reservation Dogs. And this is a series that follows the lives of 4 indigenous teenagers in rural Oklahoma as they spend their days committing crime and fighting it. What?
What?
So this is a show created by Taika Waititi.
Oh, shit.
And Sterling Harjo. Yes. So it's about Native Americans in Oklahoma. Anyway, all I need to know is Taika Waititi. I will be watching it. So you can stream this on Hulu. It's one of those like FX, but on Hulu day and date shows. So it's FX on Hulu. And that is August 9th, the day that you're listening to this. Also, coming out soon. On August 11th, you have Misha and the Wolves, which is a documentary dropping on Netflix. This sounds fascinating. I'll just talk about it real quick. So it's about a woman that survived the Holocaust, and she ran away, and she ended up living in the woods for years, raised by a pack of wolves, and ended up like murdering people to survive, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So but what's fascinating, it's one of those, like, not to spoil it, but like plot twist documentaries. That's what you think it's about, which is an incredible Holocaust survival story. But it's actually about how that lady was apparently a fraud and got away with it for like 50 years. Okay. So it seems like a fascinating documentary. Just be aware of that going in. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. And then also on Netflix that same week, August 12th, are you guys fans of the Monster Hunter video game franchise?
I've been known to partake in a monster hunt.
It was a little, it doesn't matter. We're not here to review the game. It wasn't my bag, baby.
I just liked it whenever those little kitties made me dinner. That was my favorite part of the game.
Your pal, Echo.
I didn't even
pat my palico.
I didn't even get that far.
You would like, I want turkey dinner, and then like 12 or 15 palicos, one with a chef hat and like an eye patch, is like doing like really hilarious looking, chopping up turkey, and it's very beautiful looking, and it's like, I will eat that. Thank you.
Well, Netflix that you might like has a anime film dropping on August 12th called Monster Hunter Legends of the Guild. Animation looks kind of ugly, but that's just my opinion. It's not hand drawn. It's very, very CG generated. I'm not a fan of those kind of anime. That's why I don't watch the Star Wars shows.
The Star Wars shows?
Just going to throw that out. I threw that at Steve because he's a big Star Wars fan.
How dare you?
That's Monster Hunter Legend of the Guild on Netflix.
It's funny how people will probably go to Netflix and like, I got an idea for a show. It's based off a very popular video game franchise, and then Netflix holds up their hands and like, we'll stop it right there. It's animated.
Well, I mean,
and they're like, well, no, actually, we were doing no. Animated.
I think it's because the VFX teams and the animation teams, they can make them work 90 to 120 hours a week from home and just and berate them and underpay them. And so it's much easier to make films like that.
It has to be so much cheaper.
Cranking out magic and assembly line whimsy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like it would be like 5 people. I don't know how many people. I'm not an animator. I have no clue. But they don't have like the giant crews. You know what I mean? It has to be cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100% cheaper to do what you can get away with in animation than say if it was a live action show.
Right.
Like you can have like 1 billion explosions in an anime show that literally costs you no different than if you did not have 1 billion animations. You know what I mean?
And also the reality is the track record of any TV or film based on a video game property is not good. Like The Witcher nailed it, but I can point to 1 million movies that failed to adapt a video game successfully. And there's 50 that failed.
And arguably, The Witcher is an adaptation of the novels that the video game adapted too. So
100% right.
That might be why that it worked. But
have you seen Detective Pikachu?
It's not bad. It's not terrible.
That's based off a card game, Steve.
That's actually based off of the video game Detective Pikachu for Nintendo DS.
Did the cards come before the games?
The like Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
No.
They came out after the game. Oh, so it is truly based on...
Well, did the anime come before the cards would be the question.
Also, no, I would assume.
It started with the game. The game was the thing that kicked it off.
Mm-hmm. From your travels to Japan. Anyway, on Amazon that same week, moving on to Amazon, we get a show called Modern Love. Its 2nd season drops on August 13th. Why do you bring this up, Chris? You don't even watch that show. I don't, but I'm going to. So Modern Love explores love in its multitude of forms, including sexual, romantic, familial, platonic, and self-love, which are presented in 8 half-hour episodes. So it's it's Amazon original series.
Time for self-love.
So it's an anthology show, a meditation on love. But listen, you laugh, but listen to the cast. This is season 1. Anne Hathaway, Tina Fey, Andy Garcia, Dev Patel, John Slattery, Shea Wiggum, Olivia Cook, Kristen Milioti, Julia Garner, Ed Sheeran. Fuck yeah. And I'll just leave it there, but there's more. But now, here's what...
You said Tina Fey second and kept going as if you were going to convince me more.
I know.
I love Tina Fey.
But here, I'm going to keep going. That's season 1. Season 2. Guess, Andy.
Justin Bieber.
No.
Well, you said Ed Sheeran. I thought that was natural.
I was scanning. Maybe. Kit Harington. Kit Harington coming back.
Modern Love.
Nice.
Minnie Driver.
Kit Harington.
Anna Paquin.
Lover.
I'm scanning for names that I recognize that are going to blow your mind. That's it.
Oh,
That's
Justin
it.
Bieber.
Justin Bieber. So anyway, I just think it sounds like something that's really intriguing that I really want to check out. There's a lot of big fans of it already. That's dropping on August 13th, season 2. Also that same day, August 13th, Evangelion there's a movie called Thrice Upon a Time dropping. It already came out in Japan in March, but it's dropping everywhere else on August 13th. I just know that this has a rabid fan base. Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of the most heralded anime series of all time, something that's very much on my to-do list. And then that's Amazon. Moving on to Showtime. Hopefully this is streamable somewhere else or just available to rent. Borg versus McEnroe. Have you guys heard about this film?
Is that a tennis thing?
It is.
It sounds awesome.
It stars Shia LaBeouf.
Oh,
and it's about
this movie. Okay.
Yeah. Did you watch it?
No.
Oh. Are you a LaBeouf fan?
No, I just remember LaBeouf was doing a McEnroe movie at one point. Yeah.
I'm honestly really intrigued about this. He's occasionally a really, really involved actor that's very fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a good sense about this one. It's also got Stellan Skarsgård. I would assume playing Borg. For a second, I thought it was McEnroe with a tennis racket fighting the Borg from Star Trek.
That would be, I would.
Fuck yeah, they're really going all out. Is this like Abraham Lincoln fighting the vampires thing?
I would love that.
Yeah. So LaBeouf is playing McEnroe in this.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So McEnroe is like,
and you're a big tennis fan.
Yeah, he's like famously like one of the most vocal tennis players of all time, like screaming at the judges.
He's the one that like broke his rackets and stuff, right?
Yeah, he's been in like a bit part in Adam Sandler stuff a couple of times.
He pops up in things, certainly, especially 20 years ago.
And so
Adam Sandler things.
I could see LaBeouf pulling it off.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
just
pretty
be
sweet.
yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
But thinking about tennis shows and Kit Harington, immediately thought of that 7 Days in Hell with him and Andy Samberg. Do you guys remember that?
I do. On
Like a
HBO.
mockumentary thing about this.
The Tour de France.
Tour de France? No, it was a tennis match.
I'm thinking of the spiritual sequel to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. But
Lance Armstrong.
So it was a mockumentary about a fake tennis match where these two tennis players get in a match that goes on for 7 days. And like Kit Harington's like this well-to-do idiot that's like the queen is kind of bullying him. Like, you need to win this match, you stupid little bitch. And like, it's fucking hysterical. If you get a chance on HBO, 7 Days in Hell, fantastic stuff. And probably the coolest thing Kit Harington's ever done outside of Game of Thrones.
Right. Okay. I will check that out, damn it. And then finally, probably the biggest. No, not finally. Dropping real quick. HBO that week. Titans season 3, August 12th. And then the finale of White Lotus, which is a show a lot of people are loving right now. That drops on August 15th. I know my wife's a big fan. But anyhoozle, what we're really here for, on August 11th, Disney Plus is dropping the Marvel What If ... question mark. I like how the ellipses and the question mark is always in the title. Like, what if?
What if?
No pause.
Now, Chris, tell me, what is?
What if? So it's an upcoming American animated anthology series created by A.C. Bradley for the streaming service Disney Plus, based on Marvel Comics series of the same name. So basically, it's an anthology show where each episode explores a different scenario. It is animated, but they've intimated recently that this will be canon. So it's actually got a lot of the actors from the MCU as voice actors.
Chadwick Boseman's final role, isn't it?
I believe so.
Like he did his vocal lines for this show before he passed.
He did. And it's also Jeffrey Wright is going to be in it as well as the Watcher.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a huge stepping stone into phase 4. And there's going to be a lot of cool. I mean, you got Samuel L. Jackson, Haley Atwell, Paul Bettany, Josh Brolin, Clancy Brown, Don Cheadle, Carrie Coon.
It's a lot of questions like, what if Peggy Carter was, she got the superhero serum and became like Captain Britain and not Captain America.
Yep.
That sounds badass.
And then like I saw that isn't there like a Marvel Zombies version with like Bucky fighting a zombie Captain America? What if what's his name from Black Panther that Michael B. Jordan played? What if
Killmonger?
What if Killmonger was Tony Stark's best friend? That seems to be one that they're doing. It's a lot of neat ideas. What if T'Challa was Chris Pratt's character in Guardians of the Galaxy?
What?
Star-Lord, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was picturing what if Chris Pratt was Black Panther?
No.
I was like, oh no.
The inverse of that.
Okay.
The reverse
What if? How would that go? I think we can all play that out without seeing it animated. Frank Grillo is going to be on. Anyway, the whole world is going to be freaking out about this for a solid few weeks. And we'll probably talk about the pilot quite a bit next week on this show. That is What If, available on Disney Plus on August 11th.
Hell yeah.
Very excited about that. Anywhoozle, moving right in, that brings us to our Crossing Streams segment.
Don't worry about it. Crossing Streams.
I'm furiously pointing at Chris like,
I was thinking Andy was talking about the Twitch issues, and I was like, in my head thinking, I'm just trying to focus on our main format at this point. But then in doing that, fucked it up, and that's fun.
It's all good. We're learning here. It's growing pains.
This is Crossing Streams, the segment where each week we talk about the things that we've been streaming since last we met. Andy, what have you been streaming?
Been a busy boy, man. I'm not going to lie. I didn't get to stream a whole lot, but I will say the biggest thing that I did finally watch on Hulu is the season 2 premiere of Dave.
Oh.
The Lil Dicky TV show. It is the weirdest season 2. Honestly, it's the weirdest episode of that show by far, and it's a really weird way to jump into the second season. I remember Chris talking about this a few weeks back, being like, they just kind of jump right into it, and like they don't really acknowledge anything that came before it, and it's kind of just like outdoing his thing. It is 100% that. It's bizarre. It jumps in with Lil Dicky in Korea trying to shoot a K-pop video, and we don't care anymore all of a sudden about all this character arc growth that we had about Lil Dicky and the relationship with his girlfriend who he's splitting up with at the end of season 1. We don't get anything about the hype man. What's his name?
Gata.
I want to say Taiga, and I was like, it's an animal, but that's wrong. Right. We don't get anything about Gata and like the process of us learning about him being bipolar or anything like that. We just get this 30-minute like anxiety attack. Like everything about that episode is just there to make you uncomfortable. It's like, it was almost like watching
Softy Brothers.
Exactly. It was like watching Uncut Gems. It was just like you're doing all the wrong things and you're being a prick and you're fucking things up, and no, don't make that decision. And by the end of that episode, I was like, oh fuck, man, I don't even know if I want to watch episode 2 right now. And I didn't, because I just needed to take a break. I was like, damn, Dave, like you made me feel things, but I'm not sure if those are the things I wanted to feel from this show. And that was a bummer. But I mean, the first season had some of the funniest stuff. That I still go back to that milking table scene from like episode 2 or 3, the funniest thing that happened on TV last year. And if you haven't watched it, listeners, go watch Dave, because it is, I haven't laughed that hard since. It was so funny. But
and season 2 does get better. There's still a lot of funny moments.
I'm excited to progress. It was just after that first episode, it was like you felt skeezy. You know what I mean? It was like walking out of Uncut Gems or Good Time. It was just like, ugh. All right. So go about my day now, huh? Ugh. I just had a glaze of shame.
Yeah, I mean,
shame.
It's very disconcerting, especially if you're a huge fan of season 1, which assuming, you know, you can safely assume that you are if you're watching season 2. But I think I've settled now into, hey, Dave's trying to tell an accurate story of his emotional journey throughout becoming a star. And sometimes that is actual drama and discomfort. Sure, not always very funny. You know what I mean? So
real people make real mistakes pretty often.
Yeah, tell on it. Share on it, Andy.
And I do want to say that I think that what they're ultimately going to do with the show is pretty wonderful, because it does seem like he is going to lean into what a genuine, this is my story, and like a fictionalized version of it. But I'm going to bet my life that the show, whenever it ends, it's going to end with him getting an offer to make a TV show and be super duper meta. Other news, I don't know if we talked about it last week, but they finally started shooting Clerks 3, and they're doing the same thing. It's very meta. Clerks 3 is about the making of Clerks. It's Jeff Anderson's character, Randall, decides that he wants to make a movie about being clerks, and it's just the most meta thing. And I think that that's how Dave is ultimately going to end, and I'm here for it because I dig all things meta. Our production company back in the day was called Meta Junkie because we love that shit. And I'm excited for Dave to continue. It's just, man, that first episode made me feel things. Other than that, I continued my watch of Schitt's Creek. It's a wonderful show. I don't know how it flew under the radar for me. I know that it's not flying under the radar at all. It's winning all kinds of Emmys and shit, and it's been around for like 7 seasons now or something. But yeah,
it's complete now, right?
Oh, is it over?
I think so.
Oh.
I think the last season was last year.
Okay.
Or so.
Completely off the radar now.
I didn't know, but yeah, it's great. Like everything about it, it's super funny. All the performances are wonderful. Eugene Levy, did we decide it was Levy?
Yeah, we're going with Levy.
Great stuff, man. Just watch that show.
Eyebrows,
it's on
10
Netflix.
out of 10.
He does
10 out
have
of
some
10.
amazing
They're
eyebrows.
Hey, man, Dan.
But that's all I've been able to stream lately.
It's all good, my dude.
What about you guys?
Steve?
Well, in preparation for our main event today, I went back and watched a couple movies on HBO Max. Suicide Squad, the original film
With David Ayer.
David Ayer. And I also watched Birds of Prey. But first, I'm going to talk about Suicide Squad because that is an interesting movie, and we'll get more into it. I assume when we get into talking about James Gunn's Suicide Squad in a little bit. It's just interesting to watch that movie, removed from, when it originally released. Because going into that movie, there's a lot of hype behind it. A lot of people really excited about that movie coming out. It looks so fresh, and is DC finally going to get a home run? Because all the trailers they were putting out for that movie were really top notch and drumming up a lot of excitement. And then of course people went and saw it, and it just didn't live up to expectations. And I think because of that, a lot of people really were down on it, and rightfully so. It's not a great movie, but it's interesting to watch in context now that we can compare it to the most present day one. But without getting too far into that, I just wanted to take some takeaways into it, in that Will Smith is definitely poorly cast in that movie. Not so much because he's bad in it. Like, I'm not going to say Will Smith is bad in that movie at all. It's Will Smith. And so the whole movie, he's just being Will Smith. And so you're just kind of like, why is Will Smith hanging out with all these criminals? This is weird.
Yeah.
That man's a wonderful father. What's he doing in there? And the other villains that they kind of put him up against, it's so interesting. Like, Killer Croc is the most unconvincing superhero character in a long time, because it's just this guy who's not super muscular that they just put a bunch of scales around him, and he's going like, "Hey, shawty," and it's like, what the fuck is this character you've lumbered?
Dude,
in
you're
front of
only
us?
6'2".
Yeah. It's so strange, and for it being called the Suicide Squad, only 2 of them die, and it's the one that's like, yeah, that guy's dying because he literally has, it's 40 minutes into the movie and you're just now introducing him. And then the other one has the sacrificial, I'm going to kill myself for everyone. But it doesn't really matter because you don't really care about that character.
Right.
It's so interesting. And Jai Courtney is in it, and he's great. He's one of the few things I do like about that movie is Captain Boomerang. But Joel Kinnaman, who plays Rick Flag in that movie, I don't know what their direction was for him, but when he showed up on the set, they're like, "Hey, you don't look strung out enough. Can you go in the back and do some meth and get really strung up and come back?" Because he looks terrible in that movie, and I don't quite understand why. It's strange.
Dude, he has that sometime. I've been watching For All Mankind, and he's like the lead in it, and he periodically, he just looks pretty haggard.
Yeah, and we'll get into it when it's Suicide Squad, but it looks like that guy finally got a good night's rest before he showed up to set every day, because he looks great in that movie. I was worried about him watching Suicide Squad. What are they doing to poor Joel Kinnaman? But other than that, it's just a poorly made. It's the definition of studio interfering with the creators. I'm not saying that David Ayer's cut would have been better. I don't really think it would have been. I think it would have been a different kind of bad.
It would have been hard for it not to have been, though.
True. It would have been more coherent, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't think it would have necessarily been better.
End of Watch. He gave us Training Day, somewhat. He helped on that movie. He gave us Fury, was really good. I'm a huge fan of Fury.
Yeah, but I'm saying he made this movie at the time when DC was like, all of our movies are going to be dark, dreary, and dour, and I think that's what he was going for. And yeah, I will say that if he was able to make the film he wanted to make, and in the editing room make his dark, dreary, dour DC film, it probably would have been the best DC film at that point. But halfway through their editing process, they released that Bohemian Rhapsody trailer, and they're like, and Guardians of the Galaxy just came out, and it was super popular. Like, make that.
Right.
David Ayer, do that.
Eventually, they were like, we just needed that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, that's why they're like, we like that James Gunn movie. Can we just hire him to make that? But it's interesting because when you watch the trailer, you can literally see all the many cooks in that kitchen.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just a
2-hour music video.
Yeah, it's being pulled in so many directions. There's even like a lower third that you can't even read because they were like, let's make this black lower third, this black text on top of a dark gray background so you can't fucking read it. And it's stuff like that that's so... Did no one catch that? Did no one pick up on that? That's really simple to change. That takes literally 30 seconds. Like, let me click that. Let me get my eyedropper white. Okay, it's Papyrus. Papyrus fine. That being said, Margot Robbie obviously is, really, she's a standout in that show in that movie as well as Harley Quinn. That's why she got Birds of Prey, which was the other film that I watched this week, also on HBO Max. Much better film. It's not like a blow your pants off movie, but it's a lot of fun. Fun fact, it was the last movie I saw in a movie theater before COVID shut down everything.
That's right. You didn't go out in a bad way.
What?
You didn't go out in a bad way?
No, I did not.
Decent.
It was a decent movie because she's great in it. Ewan McGregor plays Black Mask in that, and he's phenomenal in that movie.
Hello there. It's just weird how he says that when he pops up.
Well, he's so evilly pissy in that movie. I love, he like puts on gloves. Like there's a point where I think his henchman Zaz is torturing somebody and he like cuts her face or something, and Ewan McGregor's like, ew.
Yeah.
He walks by.
Who would have done really well at that as well as David Tennant?
Oh, 100% David Tennant. David Tennant's great at playing this type of characters. He's still to this day my favorite MCU villain.
Yep, Purple Man was good.
Purple Man, yeah.
I really like Birds of Prey, but I have such a huge crush on Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and
oh yeah,
Margot Robbie's just the epitome of Harley Quinn.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is beautifully awkward in that movie. I love her for it.
Yep. So big
was
fan
her
of that.
Huntress? Was that
Huntress.
the character?
Yep.
And she's like, I'm the Huntress.
Yeah. Why'd you pick that name?
Chris, what have you been streaming?
We're running a little late, so I'm gonna try to blow through them, but I've got some good things I wanted to talk about. So I've been watching this for a while, but I watched like the pilot and then kind of really enjoyed it and then never checked it out again. But I started watching a few more episodes of the show Warrior. It's available to stream on HBO Max. They had 2 seasons and it got canceled, but it got revitalized, and they're making a season 3 for HBO Max now. It had a huge fan uproar. Have you guys checked out the show at all?
I'm not.
So it takes place during the Tong Wars in the late 1800s, and it follows a character named Ah Sam, a martial arts prodigy from China. He immigrates to San Francisco and becomes a hatchet man for the most powerful Tong, which is a gang in Chinatown. So all you need to know is it's kind of like Deadwood, but with martial arts. It's super entertaining. It's got Andrew Koji, who ended up becoming the star of Snake Eyes. I highly recommend you check it out if you're a huge fan of martial arts or martial arts movies. It's got some really good action set pieces. The story's engaging. It's awesome. It's also got Olivia Chang. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but I was a huge fan of the show about Genghis Khan on Netflix. If it had 2 seasons.
Is that what it's called? The show about Genghis Khan?
No, I can't remember the fucking name. It was so good. And it had a spinoff, 100 Eyes. He was actually a blind kung fu master, ironically. But anyway, I'm really embarrassing myself, but I believe it or not, I did love those shows. That's where I was like, I learned her name. And then that's why I watched Warrior initially. Go check it out. It's available for free on HBO Max as long as you already pay for the show. Real quickly, I also rewatched Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, I love that movie so much.
The Taika Waititi film. I think I streamed it on, I think I own it on Apple TV, but it is available to stream for free. I think on maybe Amazon Prime. Any hoozle, a huge fan of this movie. It's so fucking good. It's better than I remembered, because I remember enjoying it the first time around. Like, oh, this is funny. This is heartwarming. I love Taika. I love his cadence. God, I wish I was from New Zealand. And then the second time around, I really got to pick it apart because I knew where it was going. First off, can we protect Sam Rockwell at all costs?
He's a treasure.
I feel like he is the best actor that people rarely talk about working today, that's been around for and always on his A game, and he's just never brought up in conversations of A game actors. But he crushes it. He's so endearing, and this movie had a lot of controversy rightfully so. I mean, anytime you put swastikas on people and make a comedy out of it, you're going to raise eyebrows, right? But I think this was so artfully done, and it's not trying to show what a good heart Nazis had. Or making light of the atrocities that took place. But it is an interesting look at like the children of Nazi Germany and indoctrination and what that can be like. And the whole idea of Hitler as an imaginary friend is hilarious and kind of takes the piss out of the whole Hitler thing for sure, in a good way, right?
Right.
Like Taika Waititi, nobody could have played it better. Just him showing up like... I don't want to say any of the quotes because I'm not Taika Waititi and I might come off wrong, but phenomenal movie.
I love his quote about how he wanted to play Hitler because he knew Hitler would hate the idea of someone like him playing Hitler.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And then Scarlett Johansson, she's phenomenal. And it was heartwarming. I laughed, I cried, I had a great time. So if you haven't ever seen Jojo Rabbit or you think the idea is a little weird, definitely check that out. Also, very important, I caught up with you guys. I paid... I think $20. Maybe it was on the cheap. It might have been $7. But I paid to rent the movie Pig, written by Vanessa Block and Michael Sarnowski, and directed by Michael Sarnowski, about a truffle hunter who lives alone in an Oregonian wilderness and must return to his past in Portland in search of his beloved foraging pig after she's kidnapped. So Andy said it was Ratatouille meets John Wick, and that is a good, intriguing description of this film. I absolutely love Pig. That movie took my breath away. It was not at all what I thought it was. You know what I mean? When I thought Nicolas Cage, somebody took his pig, he's angrily going in search of, I was expecting, he was going to take the cachet of guns and grenades that he had buried behind his shack and go get his pig back or something, which I was down for, as absurd as that is. But it became this like meditative tone poem about someone like retracing their past, and like, I don't know how to think about it, honestly, and I don't want to give away spoilers, but I spent hours thinking about like, is it sad that he's been all alone in the woods for 15 years with a pig, or is he okay in his life and everyone else is crazy living the way that they're living? And like they made this interesting choice, not to spoil too much, but they left him unkempt and unwashed. Like I kept expecting someone to shower and shave him. Yeah. At some point.
If you need to get into this restaurant, we need to do something about that hair.
He's just sitting in this 5-star restaurant, just dripping blood. And you assume he hasn't showered in weeks, and his clothes he's been wearing for at least days.
I'm sorry, are you okay?
Ordering truffles and escargot, and nobody's commenting on it. And I'm just like, what's the symbolism here? Or, you know what I mean? Sure. Or is it just fuck them, be as you are? I don't know. But I kept waiting for the unveiling of the famous chef. And I love that I was disappointed in that regard. But if you haven't seen this film, it's a very strange premise. Please go check it out. I know you guys loved it, right?
Oh, very much so. Very much.
This is what I wanted Green Knight to be. And not that I wanted Green Knight to be about a chef chasing his pig. But this was a movie with a strange premise that was very engaging, kept me hooked, was beautiful in its own right. This will definitely be on my top 10 of the year, I think, for sure.
Hey, remember, Green Knight has something over Pig, and that is a cum belt. So
that is true. That is true. I also, real quick, I found a streaming service called Mubi, M-U-B-I, and I watched a very strange film called Anti-Porno. It's a Japanese film about Japan's oldest major movie studio asks a batch of venerable filmmakers to revive its highbrow softcore Roman porno series. All I will say is directed by Sion Sono. It's very avant-garde. I mean, this makes Lars von Trier look like a Disney cartoon animator. I mean, it's very out there. I don't regret that I watched it, but it was not for me. It's very surreal. It's like somebody gave David Lynch a whole bunch of acid and all the free time and money in the world to make something.
Sounds terrible.
It is one of the most gorgeously shot things, even having watched Green Knight, that I have seen in recent memory. I recommend you watch it, Andy and Steve, just because like, oh, holy shit, what a creative shot. But other than that, was not my bag. I'll skip that one. It's a movie. It's a movie called Late Night. I watched it with my wife last night. It stars Emma Thompson. It's an Amazon original. It's about Emma Thompson plays a late night talk show host who suspects that she may soon lose her show. I just love Emma Thompson. So I immediately was like, press play. And she's Emma Thompson it up the whole time. It's super engaging and heartwarming. Not a lot of people liked it, but I really did. And then finally, real quick, I'm so sorry. I watch a lot of shit because I'm unemployed. The Brothers Bloom is Rian Johnson's second feature.
Yeah.
Wonderful movie.
It was right after Brick, right? Like he made Brick and then Brothers Bloom.
Yes.
I had never seen it. Huge blind spot for me. This movie's amazing. Mark Ruffalo is charming as all hell. Adrian Brody is usually too dour for me. He's not the genius that a lot of people see him as to me sometimes, but he really came off well in this movie for me. But Rachel Weisz is awesome in this movie. Like,
great,
perfectly cast. Like this quirky billionaire that is just, I love how they made her amazing at all these hobbies.
Doing kickflips and shit.
Like at one point they reference it, like we had to use a real artifact because of all your random expertise or something Mark Ruffalo says. I love con artist movies, confidence man movies. And Rachel Weisz absolutely carried this film for me. She's so perfect as like this weird, because it's a weird character. You've got this completely, what's the word? Naive, fish out of water expert who cannot be deterred. You know what I mean? So that's a strange mishmash of things. And she does it perfectly. Like she's so aloof and cute. But anyway, this movie, it's Rian Johnson. I've officially loved everything he's ever made. Damn the haters. So that's The Brothers Bloom. I actually was able to stream this on Mubi, which is the other streaming service that I subscribed to this week.
Look at you with all your streaming services.
We got them all, baby. That brings us to our feature presentation, our review of The Suicide Squad.
Your mission is to destroy every trace of something known only as Project Starfish. Any questions?
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
There is a connection, John Cena. That was from the trailer, that clip for The Suicide Squad, written and directed by James Gunn. We all saw it on premiere night, and spoiler alert, there are no spoilers in this first section. So if you have not seen the film yet, first off, I don't know what you're doing. It's available to watch right now, day and date, on HBO Max. But we will do a spoiler-filled discussion right after our overall thoughts. And that is the tea. Andy, what did you think of The Suicide Squad?
Dude, this movie was everything that I wanted it to be. It was James Gunn at his absolute best. He's unhinged at times. You're occasionally like, wow, you went there in a way that only you could, and therefore it fucking worked. And so I think that everything about this movie knocked it out of the park. I wanted crazy, gratuitous violence. I got that. I wanted a bizarre story that still somehow works. I got that. I wanted bizarre comedy, and I got that. There were so many little things throughout the movie that just had me dying laughing. And like, they weren't even like the visual punchlines that he's good for, and there's plenty of those too. He is a masterful filmmaker. And if a joke isn't having a punchline, something on the camera is at any given moment. And it's rare to have a movie that has so much going for it at all times. Like, frequently people will say that a movie is firing on all cylinders. And I think that that's just kind of like a, dumb just thing that people say when they don't know how else to better describe it. But that absolutely applies to this movie. Like it is always hitting in some way, at least for me. Like I said, it was everything that I wanted. And I tweeted about this right after we got out of the movie, and I said that it was surprisingly heartfelt. And then I thought more about James Gunn's movies. I'm like, no, that's not surprising at all. Like, he always has that, where it's like he knows how to like rip your heart out violently, make a dick joke and then pull at the heartstrings. And like, it's in a way that only he can do it. And I honestly think that it's his best movie. It's by far the best DC movie since they stopped making the Christopher Nolan ones. It blows every other DC movie out of the water. And I think that Disney fucked up when they fired him. And I'm really excited to see where he goes next. But I want him to keep making these movies because I had so much fun with it. And there's so many different places he could still go. But yeah, dude, A+. It was wonderful.
Awesome. Steve, what are your overall thoughts on The Suicide Squad?
The Suicide Squad is hands down the most fun I've had in a movie theater in years. Even before COVID happened and kind of, shut down the theaters. This is such a blast. I was sitting in the theater next to you, Chris, smiling giddily the entire time, laughing through most of it. This was just such a fun experience. And he touched on how, James Gunn is a master at, having this like gory, twisted mess in front of you, but it feels genuine in terms of like what the characters feel real. Even though like some of the characters are fucking shark monsters, they all feel like they have real emotions and they're grounded in this real world that they live in. And it's fantastic. The other thing I love about James Gunn, especially in this movie, is there's a lot of interesting camera angles. They use a lot of overexposure in some scenes effectively. They use a lot of interesting tracking shots that kind of come out. It's almost like they like strapped a camera to someone. They're like, okay, literally sprint across this field and just kind of like as you're running by someone, just kind of look at it. It's the type of shot you don't see in a movie of this high quality. It's very much like an indie film shot, but it's in this like high budget film, and I love that for him. Aside from James Gunn, the cast is superb. I think there is a star-making performance. There's a celebrity who is reaching this movie is making them get to a higher echelon of what type of film star they are. It's like cemented their legacy. And it also took an actor who I genuinely love, but I feel like is miscast in a lot of movies. And finally, I feel like this is a movie where he is perfectly cast in. Plus, you've got like a ton of other actors and actresses that just like show up for smaller roles and they crush every single bit they're in. There is literally, I'm going to say, I don't think there are no jokes that don't land.
So the star maker would have been the Ratcatcher, right?
Yes.
Ratcatcher 2. The cementing their legacy, we're talking about Idris Elba.
No, I think so. John Cena was a star leading into this movie.
Okay.
I think this movie and his performance specifically in this movie is going to elevate him into like, oh wow, John Cena is not just a pretty face we can slap into comedies. He's a guy that he can be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. He can be the next Dwayne Johnson, basically.
Or like he's kind of a Dave Bautista in that way. Like, well, not just because he's a wrestler, but he's also like this physical presence.
Hello, Mr. President.
Actually, like
president of my body,
comedically capable. Like he's funnier than shit. So then, who's the one that's
Idris Elba's the one
finally well cast?
Idris Elba. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think Idris Elba gets cast in a lot of movies that I don't like.
Just make him James Bond.
Like make him fucking James Bond. He's so goddamn cool. But he's in a lot of movies that I don't necessarily like those movies, but I love him. And I always like, man, I wish you would find that movie. You know how months ago we were talking about how like we all love Anthony Mackie and wish he would just get into a movie that we all fucking love him in, and because the movie's good. This is that for Idris Elba to me, because he's amazing in this movie, and I love the way he plays his character as this guy who, it would be very easy to make this basically the Will Smith 2.0. Like, here's a guy who shoots things and he's really good at shooting these things, and he's got a daughter that can be used to manipulate him. But whereas Will Smith is like, I'm Will Smith and I'm really good at everything, Idris Elba plays this guy's like, I'm really gruff and scary, but also I've got phobias, but oh man, that's super cool when I can get a little down on myself about things in goofy, silly ways that feel real and not super pandering. And then I need to bring up her name because I'm going to mispronounce it. I know I will, but she plays Ratcatcher 2.
Daniela, I think.
Daniela. It's weird on IMDb. She's like further back than she should be.
Yeah, she's actually not on the main page,
which is asinine. Daniela Melchior,
the guy who played Sliced Dome Soldado, is on here
before her.
Oh yeah, you gotta have him.
She is the heart and soul of this movie. She's so good, and her rapport with Idris Elba specifically is so good. Joel Kinnaman, we mentioned before how like, I'm so glad he got well rested and show up on set with a full 8 hours, because he looks great. And he did the unthinkable, and that was make Rick Flag a great, amazing character. Because in the first movie, they wrote him so poorly, and they made his character do a lot of dumb decisions in the first movie where like by the end of it, you're like, I hate this dude. Get him off the screen.
Right.
But in here, he's so fucking great. And the whole time he's on, and it says something so much about how great this cast is, where we've spent so much time talking about them, and I have yet to mention Margot Robbie.
Right.
Who is amazing in this movie, but like she's definitely probably like my least favorite character, which isn't a bad thing because I still love her in this movie, but like everyone else is so good. You know what I mean? So I can't say enough great things about this movie, and I look forward to getting the spoilers and talking about some very specific things. I will end on one note. It is a small spoiler, but any movie that features the Pixies in it is okay by me. So, Chris, how did you feel about it?
Every Pixies song just plays so well for a film.
Yeah,
like not only does it work, but it's like iconic.
Yeah,
like all the way back to Fight Club, which is how I discovered the Pixies. That ending song in that movie. But anywho, everything you guys said for the most part, I love this movie. I was ecstatic. Walking out of the theater with you guys. It's everything that I wanted it to be, like Andy said, but also everything I wanted the 2016 version to be. Like I've in a way been excited for this film since 2016. And I don't want to compare it to David Ayer's version a whole lot, even though that's very obviously easy to do, but I kind of think it's low hanging fruit. I respect David Ayer as a filmmaker, and it just didn't work out. And this time it did, and that is what it is. So I'm going to compare it to other films, or maybe just compare it to itself. God, it was such a good movie. I agree with you. It's the most fun I've had in a theater in years. I also think, I don't know that it's the best James Gunn movie. I guess it is, but
I think so.
It's better than Guardians of the Galaxy 1 to me, which is a movie that I loved. That is top tier MCU. And I know that's some recency bias possible, but I already went home and watched it again on HBO Max and plan to do so a third time very soon.
I've already watched this movie 2.5 times.
Yeah. My wife came in and she just watched it. So she watched it on HBO Max while I was at the theater. The credits were playing when I walked in that night. And she came home from work when I was in the middle of watching it, and she said hello and sat down and started laughing and getting excited because she knew which scene was coming up. Like, oh, this part is great. I love when this is my favorite part. And it's rare that a movie you've seen that recently can engage multiple people again, right? Mm-hmm. This movie is it's almost perfect. Every character in this movie I almost compared it to the first one. Every character in this movie gets an arc, which in an ensemble is incredibly hard to do without getting, a whole lot of exposition or muddling things.
Even the smallest character also get their time to shine as well. Like everyone gets their moment. And also this movie is like the perfect example of having payoffs. Because they set up so many things that you don't even realize they're setting up. But by the end of the movie, they pay off everything in surprising ways.
Chekhov would have been very proud. 90% of the jokes land in this movie, which a lot of times it's pandering, like, oh, ha, 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 can we just move the plot along? But I'm trying to think of it. A lot of Dwayne Johnson movies specifically, it's just like a yuck kind of joke before the action, and it doesn't even bother me. But almost every joke lands. What were you going to say, Andy?
I was just going to say, and I'm kind of changing the gears on it, but you guys said how much fun it was to see, most fun you've had in a movie theater. I think there's something to be said for the scope of the movie and the way that it was filmed, and that seeing it in theaters, even though it's available on HBO Max, if you can, go watch it in the theater, because some of these shots, like there's the iconic one that you see in the trailer where all of the Suicide Squad is walking in front of the giant American flag that is like hung in the hanger that they're about to take off from. But there's something about seeing that on the screen that just the big screen that just hits different, man. And especially we saw it in Dolby Cinema, and I also actively encourage everybody.
The sound was just as important
to do that because
they have the seats that rumble with the sound.
And we had that rumble pack.
Ooh, that does stuff.
It was part of the experience. It was insane.
That does stuff to me.
It was a wonderful experience if you can see it in theaters.
100%. And then come back home and watch it again on HBO Max. That's what we did. Be like us. That brings us to our spoiler section. I'm eager to get to it.
You are entering spoiler territory.
You're bullshit.
All right, we are now in spoilers for The Suicide Squad. Emphasis on the. I feel like the guy who made Napster, was his name Sean Parker? He'd roll up to James and be like, drop the.
I believe Justin Timberlake made Napster.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Justin Timberlake, hands down.
I can't drop the. We're trying to differentiate ourselves.
I'm sorry. The Justin Timberlake.
Yes. No, drop the. It's cleaner. Interesting how this movie was born. It's not a reboot. It's not a sequel. They have chosen to just, for the most part, and this is straight a quote from the producer, the main producer of the film, from the head of the studio, ignore its predecessor and refer to it in no significant way whatsoever.
Only in casting, really.
And they made a point to kill every remaining character except the one that they can't, because that was successful, a la Harley Quinn.
Yeah, so that was a bummer for me as a big fan of Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
I did enjoy.
Though they did have him go out in a great way.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Because he like gets riddled with all these shards of wood and then looks at Harley, who's aghast that the chopper is about to chop him up. And he just goes, kind of a smile and that glint on his gold tooth and a shrug.
Yeah.
And it was, that shocked the shit out of me.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about the beginning? Because the beginning of this movie is incredibly, it's such an interesting decision that they did. So it opens up like almost the focal character is Michael Rooker's Savant.
Correct.
Where it opens up with him and he's sort of the audience's eyes into what the Suicide Squad
the whole process of what joining the squad's like.
Yeah. And he, we kind of see the squad he's going out with. That's where you get the iconic shot with all the different characters. They end up
from the trailer.
From the trailer, they end up on a beach, and turns out Blackguard, Pete Davidson betrayed them all, and they all basically, except for Rick Flag and Harley Quinn, they all die right off the bat. What did you guys think about that?
So on the drive over to the theater, I asked Chris, so how many of the squad do you think is going to die? And he was like, I don't know. What do you think? And I was like, I think probably 6. I think it's going to have a pretty good body count. We got 6 in the first 10 minutes of the movie. I sat there and counted. I was like, yep, there they are. And that was all 6 of them.
But I want to say too, you did say there was a funny exchange we had. We're like, I don't know. That seems like a lot, but I guess so. And you're like, Polka Dot Man's definitely going to bite it.
Right.
And I was like, you think so? And you were like, nobody cares about fucking Polka Dot Man, which was a fair thing to assume. And yet he was an emotional linchpin of this film.
Absolutely.
And that shocked the shit out of me.
Mind.
Polka Dot Man was like the guy that I was totally into. Because if anyone knows anything about me in comic book films, if you have a really stupid gimmick and you look really stupid, I am going to love you to death. That's why I love Ant-Man. That's why I love Captain Boomerang.
You're Condiment King's biggest fan.
Dude, if Suicide Squad 3 comes out and Condiment King isn't on it, I will cry.
So James Gunn got to pick which characters that he wanted to write with, and he picked the most absurd ones he could find. I want to talk a little bit about Michael Rooker again. Obviously, it was his choice to use Michael Rooker, of Guardians fame, or that's where he worked with James Gunn last. I think that this opening sequence was so brilliant because it basically in 10 minutes established a perfect tone for the film, but also, you thought you knew what this movie was going to be, and now you're really fucking confused. So now you're more engaged than ever. It was kind of what Andy said last week when I asked about what's the point of a flash forward. And he said, if anything, there's a good story point. If done well, it's to set up expectations to later subvert. And so James Gunn and his team with this movie kind of did something brilliant where the trailers set up expectations that they could immediately subvert.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not as funny on the 12th time.
It's really bad.
I'm just ignoring it.
That light bulb's still flickering.
So he established expectations to immediately subvert, but that piqued my interest because I thought, I know how the story beats are going to go for this movie, and hopefully I'll be entertained. But I kind of sat forward like Michael Rooker's dead, Boomerang's dead. All of what I consider to be the main characters are the diversion for this other team of unknown characters.
Yeah, it was a really good twist.
What the fuck?
Squad 2, how you doing?
Yeah.
What Squad 2?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Why didn't we get a slow-mo of them?
It's a great way to raise stakes. Because now, they just killed off a lot of characters, some of which you like.
Oh, shit.
I wouldn't have thought Captain Boomerang was going to bite it that early. I wouldn't have thought that they would have killed Michael Rooker. The way they kind of introduced him, I wouldn't have thought Michael Rooker was going to die so quickly. They set him up with this bouncy ball. He kills the bird. And by the way, later a bird eats his guts. Did you catch that?
The same bird,
Divine
same colored
Justice.
bird anyway. That's the visual punchlines I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're right. But he doesn't actually do anything. He doesn't, and he's like fucking amateurs. He saves Weasel. He starts crying and runs away. He doesn't do anything. Yeah. It's so weird.
I really love that opening scene. Another reason why I love it is that, and this speaks to the power of what a good writer James Gunn is even with these characters only being on screen for a short amount of time, all of them have great moments. Some of them are like like Pete Davidson has like a couple really, really funny moments. Nathan Fillion, Flula Borg, they all have great funny
I didn't
moments.
recognize that was Nathan Fillion from Firefly.
Really?
Yeah.
And he's
What a stupid character.
I love the reveal of what his power is, where he just like his arms kind of like float over and kind of like mildly annoy people.
I love picturing James Gunn as like a fan of the comics and then being like, we got to use TDK and explaining his power. And they're like, no, what? And then, no, don't worry. We'll just write the actual characters going, no, what? Because Harley Quinn, when he detaches his arms, she's like, what the fuck?
I don't get to pick the team.
Yeah, Flag's like, I don't get to pick the team.
But then there's this other moment when Harley when she gets on the helicopter, and just her little brief rapport with Captain Boomerang is great, where he's like, oh, what are you doing back in prison, Harl? And it like immediately establishes that these two have a history.
Yeah.
They are friends. They're not complete cockbags that are just out for themselves. But then Boomerang does the classic like veteran thing where he's like, all these people know their meat's on hooks and they don't even know it yet, Harley.
Yeah.
And like he's just trying to like fresh
Leave
meat.
him alone, Boomer.
Yeah, and she calls him Boomer, which is fucking hilarious. But yeah, and then Flula Borg as Javelin has this great moment where he bequeaths his javelin unto Harley, and right before he dies, he's like, you have to carry it for... and he dies, and it just infuriates her for the rest of the movie. She's like, wow, I don't know why this dick gave me this javelin. Carry it for what?
Yeah. And it really bothers her. Like she has to figure it out. And it comes back later. Chekhov's javelin. There's a lot of Chekhovs in it. I'm going to use that term a lot. Just a warning. I did have a nit to pick on my second watch, and this is so tiny. It's just a writing logic thing. And it's like, it's so easy to shrug and be like, I don't give a fuck. This is amazing. But the whole conceit of Blackguard betraying the Suicide Squad makes no fucking sense.
No.
Like, how did he get any word of this mission to the soldiers on this beach?
That's not the part that I don't think makes sense.
Well, I'm still going. There's a lot that doesn't make any sense about it. And then, okay, what was his fucking plan? He has a bomb in his head. Like, you can assume he's an idiot by the way that he's like, hey guys, we thought he was going to be okay. But other than that, what was his plan?
I don't know.
That they were going to take out the bomb, and
that's probably what he was thinking.
She wasn't going to know that he was doing that from the immediate slaughter of their team from everyone but him and the live camera footage on it. Like, anyway, but I was like, fuck it.
Yeah. I think Viola Davis Waller, who, she's amazing. We haven't said how great she is in this role as well, but she's so great in this role. But I think because she specifically calls out like everyone's been chosen on the team for a specific set of skills. I think he's on that team to rat them out and bring the military to them and be the diversion, because she knows he's a little
smart.
She saw him, was like, is that Pete Davidson? Oh, that guy's a fuck boy. We can
his dumb face.
Yeah. So yeah, but you're right. Like, from his point of view, like, what did he think was going to happen? Like, if he betrays them, sure, that's great. But then she's just going to flip a switch and blow his head off.
I assume that that's a deleted scene where it's more Pete Davidson footage of him making the call and figuring it out. And it's just like, do we really need this?
Sure, that's fair. Steve's right. Maybe it speaks to Amanda Waller's character. As far as her intellect and her planning, but I don't even think you need him betraying them. You just need like a failed beach landing to distract from the other beach landing, right? But it's a funny scene.
Well, there's another part that leads me to believe this is all part of Waller's grander plan, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Well, I was going to kind of jump around a little bit. I have some talking points. If you want to take the mic, I took some notes. I wanted to bring some random stuff.
The one that I wanted to bring up that kind of relates to that, her being her master plan, is so Rick Flag and Harley, they're on team one, the one that gets kind of busted, but they're the only two that survive. Harley is captured by the military. Rick Flag is rescued by the island military.
Freedom fighters, yeah.
Yeah, so this island has a dictatorship, and then there's a freedom fighters that are, against the dictatorship. And she makes the point, once they figure out that Rick Flag's captured by the rebels, they're like, hey, you need to go save Rick Flag, kill everyone you see, which is one of those things where, like, on my second viewing, I was like, oh, she told them that they were all hostiles because she doesn't necessarily want this country to be run by a democratically run, ally to the country. If she can get them to kill all these rebels, then that leaves that country to be in turmoil, which is what her intention was by the end of the movie. So
it's of note too that the comic book version of Amanda Waller is like this strangely drawn, like giant kingpin-esque character who's just savage as fuck. Like she's not evil, because what is that, right? But she is so steadfast in her belief of what her job is that she does terrible things. And I don't think David Ayer's version really made that character that way. But this one, you can tell James Gunn has read the comics for a long time. You know, he's like, nah, she would put children in hospitals or jails or prisons or kill them. Like nobody is immune from this. She'll press that button in a heartbeat just because she said she would. And they do a quick job of establishing all of that. Yeah, you're right.
But how great was that scene of them sneaking up on the freedom fighters? Team B. We had King Shark, we had Peacemaker, who's John Cena, Bloodshot, who's Idris Elba, Ratcatcher 2.
And you got Andy, like he said, firing on all cylinders, because there's really engaging action. You've got this this C plot of this pissing contest between Peacemaker and Bloodsport. But
is it Bloodsport or Bloodshot?
Bloodsport.
Oh, okay.
Like the Jean-Claude Van Damme film. That's what he's named after. So all of that's happening at once, and then all teeing up this hilarious joke when they finally find Joel Kinnaman laughing and drinking tea with the freedom fighter. And he's fine. They rescue. Oh yeah, all these people saved my life, and the look at all their faces.
People.
And he set it up as this 9-minute, like they're setting people on fire, they're decapitating them, they're stabbing them 17 times a piece. I mean, they're killing them, not only killing them, but in brutal ways.
Yeah.
For sport, LOL.
And really funny ones, a couple of them. The one where Peacemaker walks by and just casually like stabs this sleeping dude like 8 times.
Yeah.
I've watched that a dozen times. It is so savage because he does it so hard and quickly.
Yeah.
And you just hear the guy going, and it's brutal. And to know that he's just like an innocent freedom fighter.
And like John Cena's like picking his nose as he's like shooting people and shit. It's like he's like none of this is hard for either of them. And then but it speaks to their character so well that they're like doing this just to try to one up each other. With John Cena getting the upper hand, I think, in this scene.
And then the punchline.
I disagree, but in the movie canon, yes.
The fucking polka dot man, when they say, "Oh, we didn't see anybody back there," he says, "I pretended they were all my mom and I killed them."
Yeah,
it's so fucked
such a
up.
creepy, crazy bastard. It's awesome. And you would think all of the how James Gunn plays with time in this movie, because there's a lot of
3 minutes ago
title cards, diegetic title cards, because it's in what's going on in the movie. It's like, this is what happened 3 hours ago, 8 minutes ago,
those title cards
3
are
days
great.
ago. But no, it's easy to get lost when you jump around in time like that. Like the first film did, it jumped around and you end up getting characters introduced not once, but twice, and kind of ruining the pacing of the film or kind of confusing you. James Gunn really plays with fire with this movie, the way that it's edited. It could, like, there's one point in particular toward the third act where he uses that 8 minutes earlier card, and Andy and I both got worried.
Get to what is basically the climax of the movie, and then it says, "Oh, never mind, we're going to do another cutaway." And when that happened, the 8 minutes earlier one, it was when Peacemaker is about to shoot the Ratcatcher, and I'm like, "Oh no!" Like I thought that when they did the cutaway, I was like, "This is where the movie falls apart." And it didn't. It worked so well to build back up to it and show the basically the meanwhile.
Yeah, it's like, hey, there's about to be a Deus Ex Machina, but we're going to explain exactly how it happened, and it's just going to be a funny quink-a-dink. And it worked. But yeah, every single time he does it, it works. Like you kind of cut back to the joke of all of them sitting in like the projector room getting the debriefing of the mission or whatever. And you get the funny joke with, how we introduced King Shark. Hand, which Sylvester Stallone perfectly cast. Yeah. Like as is Vin Diesel as Groot, right? Like James Gunn is a master at this as well.
Me book read.
So smart, much smart. It's upside down. Awesome. So well,
such new dumb friends.
He's gonna be a fan favorite forever. There's a scene with King Shark in the third act where he finds this fish tank of cute little creatures. And he says, "New dumb friends." And Carissa, my wife, pointed out, she walked in from work at that point, and she's like, "It's so sad," because she's a bleeding liberal, and she's like, "It's so sad that they end up eating him and stuff later." And he was so excited to see them. And I was like, it kind of colored that scene a whole different way for him. I was like, yeah, that is unnecessarily brutal to King Shark that they're all like attack the shit out of him.
There's a lot of stuff that happens to King Shark where you're like, oh, poor King Shark. Because like they leave him they go and have a party.
It cuts to him in the card. And I thought that was for a conflict reason, that he was going to bust into the bar and start eating people or trying to drink with them and blow their cover. over. No, they just wanted to cut to King Shark being sad and fuck your day up.
Yeah.
Like, aw. And he's like this rabid murderer, but I'm still like, aw.
Poor King Shark. He'll eat anybody at any moment's notice.
That's what shocked me about this movie more than anything, and I should have known better. I expected the wonderful soundtrack. I didn't expect it to all be diegetic and fit into the movie so well, but I expected that. I expected good action. I know James Gunn's competent with story. I didn't expect it to be Suicide Squad to be so sentimental. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are multiple scenes where I full on cried, and most of it was Ratcatcher 2 because she's the emotional heart of this film. But there's even a moment, I will go on and say, I don't even think it's controversial. This is the best iteration of Harley Quinn that we've gotten. Like, from all three films that we've seen Margot Robbie play her in, this is the most fleshed out Harley Quinn that we've ever gotten, even in Birds of Prey, which is a movie entirely about her. I think this is the most fleshed out person Harley Quinn that we've gotten. But there's a scene where they go to rescue her and she's already freed herself, and they show up, and it was in the trailer too. And it's a good joke where, oh, we were going to rescue, you're going to rescue me? Do you want me to go back in so you can still do it? Yeah. Because, Joel Kinnaman's character is like, Rick Flag's like, it's a good plan too. Yeah. And then Bloodsport responds, that's patronizing. Yeah. But that moment, even though I knew it was a joke, I'd heard it before in the trailer. It actually had an emotional beat to it.
Dude, it hit different.
Me. Like, oh, she's so touched. Yeah.
I think a big part of that is the sequence that we got earlier when she has her kind of monologue moment after killing the president that took over Corto Maltese in the coup. Yeah. When he reveals that, like, I'm going to, rule this country by fear. Anybody that dares turn against me, they go to Jotunheim.
And their friends die. And their children.
Yeah. And then she kills him, and she has this whole thing, and it's like funny, but also like really shows like who she is as a person and the things that she's dealt with, like alludes to them with that without being like, hey, we're talking about the Joker here. Yeah. Where it's like, I swore to myself that if I saw somebody, if I saw these red flags, that I was going to do the healthy thing,
do the sensible thing and kill them.
Yeah. And like, it's funny, but it's also like really touching too, because it's like, like Harleen Quinzel was
if that character is capable of growing, that tortured, is the character growth,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, 100%.
And so I think that sequence coming later, where it's the joke of, oh, you guys were coming to help me, that like having gotten that emotional arc from her before made that scene hit different. Yeah, even though nothing was presented differently than it was. Often in a trailer, you'll get like a little piece of it, and the context around it will, within that scene, will change the way that it hits. But it was straight up in the trailer. And you had a good point about the trailer and the lack of spoilers in it. Have we talked about that?
Not really. We alluded to it in the beginning and how it was kind of a diversion of expectations, right? Mm-hmm. A subversion. I forget how you say it. But yeah, so the trailer is one of the best trailers in a decade. I mean, bar none.
This coming from a guy that I hate trailers, so I really respected that they took the effort and set the tone of the film perfectly with the trailer, made you want to see it more than you already did not lie in any way about what it was, the kind of movie it was going to be or what was going to be in it. And yet 90% of the footage in the trailer is over in the first 10 minutes of the actual film and is completely not at all like, because so many trailers, they give you the very best jokes, the most hardcore scenes and action set pieces are alluded to. James Gunn didn't do that at all. He saved all the best jokes for the actual film. Some good ones were used in the trailer. But yeah, most of that footage is in the first 10 minutes. And I was out of like pre-visited footage at like the 12-minute mark for the most part, except for the kaiju. And I'm like, holy shit, well done, sir. I don't know what's going to happen. This is great.
The only pick that I could knit though from the trailer, and when I sat in the car, I thought for sure that Pokemon was going to eat it.
Polka Man? That's a very different... That's a very...
Way better.
It's a weird power.
I want to see him in that, then the next one. When I said that I thought for sure he was going to bite the dust, it was because of that shot of him looking up in the sky and going, I'm a superhero. Because watching that trailer, I thought, oh, that's the scene where he dies.
And it totally is.
It was.
It is.
Yeah.
And that just happens at the end of the movie.
Right. Yeah. I was just like, I thought that was a weird choice. And sometimes that happens in trailers where it's like, that was the end that you just showed. And like, it kind of is there and kind of isn't, but just the way that was shot and him looking up I immediately pinged that as being like death scene. And it was.
Good call. That's exactly what happened.
But have we talked yet about how fucking great Polka Dot Man was? Like, not just like occasionally really funny, like punchline moments, but it was also
like they said in the trailer, that's what they set him up to be, is this one-liner.
Yeah, but he was like the most psychologically, like, I almost said developed, but it's the complete opposite of that. But like the one that's
he's the one that has
most
the most trauma mentally, because he's clearly has like a PTSD issue with what his backstory
I wouldn't
has
say
with his
that.
mother.
I think he's up there with Harley Quinn.
True, but like whereas she is functioning, I think she functions more so than he is.
So yes.
Because she's like this is me and you know, fuck you if you don't like me, I'm Harley Quinn, woo, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Whereas he's very much like, it's almost crippling to him socially, because he has this PTSD. His mother experimented on him and his brothers and sisters, trying to make them superheroes as
and
young
they
children.
all died and stuff, and it was like this incredibly heart-wrenching, like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and now the twisted thing is he literally he sees everyone as his mother. So every now and then the movie, they play it for laughs, but like when you think about it, it's really fucked up. Where that you see the world through his view and everyone is his mother, and it's so
Super
twisted.
creepy.
But it does lead up to the greatest payoff ever, to which is the greatest "your mom" joke in the history of cinema, where Idris Elba points at Star Wars like, "You see that? You know what that is? It's your mom."
You just see this giant kaiju Polka Dot Man mother.
But it's good that they kind of, you know, saddle him with this emotional baggage, because his power space, even though it's ridiculous and flamboyant, as he says.
Sorry, it's so flamboyant.
It's pretty overpowered too, because
Yes.
it's basically like he just like holds his arms up and like these polka dots pretty much melt anything that's in front of him.
Yeah, he's weirdly by far the most powerful of them.
And they allude to that with the neck brace. Like that's a, what's she call it?
Power dampener.
Power dampener.
Because if he does, I assume they have that on him, because if not, like the power, he
It'll
gets
just
these
leak
polka
out of him.
dots that like kind of bulge out of his face, and he looks super grotesque, and he has to like
Vomit them out.
vomit her out, or else it will kill him.
Yeah. And so he would melt through the any jail they would put him in, though. So have to have the power dampener. We don't know how that works, but very interesting. I have another nit to pick, which is very stupid, but this is our job here, is to notice things. And
Dude, pick them nits.
for like, just, I'm curious about the canon of it. So King Shark is so strong that Amanda Waller says, hey, he's the strongest in your crew. Even though he's goofy and dangerous, you need him. He cannot be pierced by bullets. We see that repeatedly. I mean, Bloodsport shoots him multiple times, and though it stuns him because it's like a super strong shotgun or 50 cal rifle or whatever it is when he's trying to eat Ratcatcher 2, later on he's getting shot from all angles by the entire Carto Maltese military. Yet they were able to get a bomb in his massive neck with the same needles and technology. What pierces his skin if not a bullet? And that's dumb. I'm just saying, like, or maybe they don't even have a bomb in his. Maybe he's just so dumb they told him they did. Right. And he's like, oh, okay.
If you go out with them, we'll give you food. Nom nom.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Do whatever I say or I'll explode you. There's a bomb in your neck. You'll go boom, boom. Boom, boom.
My one nit that I want to pick in this movie.
No, we're not allowed to pick nits.
Oh, sorry. I missed the boat. But no, it's and it's very small because it's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But like you know, you meet the new team B, and you get to love them, and they're having fun in the jungle, and you really
Welcome to the jungle. Yeah.
And then it cuts over to Harley, and Harley's by herself, and she's being like wooed by the dictator, Luna, I think is his name.
It is Luna.
When they initially do that, I felt as though the pacing of the movie just screeched to a halt. But then, thankfully, it didn't take too long to, we're like, oh, this is fun too. Oh, okay. But for a second there, it's kind of like you with the 8 minute later tag, Andy. When that happened, I was like, oh no, please, I'm having such a good time.
Where it falls apart.
Oh no. And as we were leaving the movie theater, I think both of you and I looked at each other like, I think this is the first movie I've seen this year where the movie didn't fall apart in the third act.
Yeah. I mean, especially with superhero films, it happens so often because everything to build up with that much overpowered shit to build up to a climax from that usually gets so bombastic that it's just absurd.
And this movie does get pretty bombastic.
It does. It's a giant,
but in a good way,
alien starfish.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about what ultimately becomes the giant, you know, big bad of the movie.
And I love that I can see the studio writer's room behind using Starro. Like, hey, this is kaiju. This is gonna, our Asian market's gonna go nuts. It's gonna play so well overseas. Like, I can see that, and I don't care. It is still the best choice story wise.
Yeah.
And I love that this story became, and maybe it always was intended to be in the comics, this band of misfit toys, like becoming some sort of like bastardized family, as opposed to, I said I wasn't going to do this, but like Ayer's version, which is just, isn't it entertaining that these hardened psychotic criminals are stuck together and trying not to kill each other while accidentally doing something. This is, you know what I mean? All these, like you said, traumatized people. This is how it humanized them. Like, this is what quote unquote villains in real life are just broken, traumatized people with fucked up worldviews doing fucked up shit. And it's unfortunate. It's actually quite sad when somebody commits a heinous crime, right? And that's kind of who these people are. Like, even Peacemaker, we didn't talk about. You said that Starro was the villain, but Peacemaker sort of becomes the villain.
Yeah.
Because it's
interesting. Like, even though he does become the antagonist towards the end, in a way, and this is what so impressed me about John Cena in that moment is I see him as less as an evil guy and more of just an idiot who is just so hell bent on following his rigid code.
100%. That's what I'm trying to say. Is
you can see him in the performance, like specifically when he is, he's fighting Rick Flag, and then eventually he ends up killing Rick Flag. The entire scene, you can tell like he does not want to kill Rick Flag.
He's horrified that he had to do it. He
really respects him, but because his moral rigid code tells him that in order to maintain peace, he's got to kill this guy that he respects the hell of a lot. And then he wants to kill Ratcatcher 2 for the same reason.
Yeah.
And like, even Ratcatcher 2 is like, why do you have to kill me? Why can't you just destroy the drive? And you can see him wrestling with like, that's a good point.
Because I'm thorough.
But at the end of the day, I'm thorough. I have to do this. Like, he just has this feeling that he needs to. And it's so well acted from him. And that's why I love his character.
Yeah. That no one's more dangerous than somebody who thinks that they're being righteous. Even Starro's character has.
Yeah, it has this wonderful emotional arc where he's just like, I was happy floating through space looking at the stars.
Yeah, and it's like, you motherfuckers brought me down here. Yeah, tortured me for 30 years.
That drive, though, that's probably the biggest pick to knit for me. Sorry, I love saying it that way.
It's backwards, though.
I know. It's just, I hate that it was this giant wall of servers and fucking Rick Flags just like walks up to one of them, reaches down at the bottom, pulls out a solid state drive and says, I'm going to show everybody. And Peacemaker's like, oh, no, you're not. It's like, what the fuck do you think is on that drive? Like, there's
and then it gets like thrown around
right
like
there
for an hour.
Yeah, and it's fine.
It's like, what made you think that was the one?
Oh, I know.
It's not even a rugged drive. It's just like, it's naked.
This is the space footage. Exactly. For sure. And then how did, and this is since we're just pecking nets, how did Bloodsport upload that to a server that he could threaten Amanda Waller with when they're still just in Cordo Maltese?
Oh, because he stuck it in his glove, bro. Obviously, he had a computer in there. Oh, how cool was his suit, though? Like, everything was a gun somewhere, and like they all keep adding on to each other and connecting. It was almost like Tony Stark with his what's the technology
nano
they call it? Yeah, the nano machines that just his suit can just build itself. Basically, it was kind of like that.
Yeah,
and I love when segmented. He like ran out of guns at the end. He's like feeling all over his body.
Yeah, where's my pieces?
He's like, I got nothing.
On my second watch, I caught a joke in the bar. He calls Peacemaker Pissmaker, which because of his dialect kind of went over my head without subtitles. But then Peacemaker calls him Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which I didn't understand because I didn't fully understand what the fuck his ability was at that point. I didn't know where he was pulling these like weird, like his clothing pistol, iron guns.
His pistol I always thought looked like a key. It didn't look like a gun to me. It looked like he was just holding a key at somebody.
Yep.
He had this crazy, like his left arm was a bow that he could just shoot arrows from. That was really neat.
Super neat. Super neat. But yeah, I liked Inspector Gadget because that's an illusion of what he's doing with those things there.
Of the people there, I think the Ratcatcher had like the one that was just no power whatsoever. Basically, she just had a little wand. And I thought for sure at some point that wand was going to get destroyed, and then we're going to have this scared little girl that can't do anything. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like it had to do that at some point. And that was
Peacemaker took it.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
I thought for sure it was going to get destroyed at some point, and then it was like, oh, what do we do? Chris, you talked after the movie about like a wonderful, and again, this is like an emotional punchline also working out in the script where leading into the second act, we get that line between Idris Elba and the rat catcher, Daniela Melchior or whatever.
Yeah.
Where he says, I'll make sure to get you out of here alive. And she says, I'll make sure I get you out of here alive.
Yeah.
And then we have
that was a bullseye, Daniela.
where you think that he is rescuing her, where it's like kind of like this. Of course, the man saves the young girl sequence, but then ultimately, like, he does save her from getting crushed or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they're still completely overrun, and then she is still ultimately the one that saves them by being able to call in the rats from everywhere.
And how beautiful is that? Where are you talking about Harley? Yeah. Harley?
Oh, kind of. You do you.
Well, I was just saying. So
I think it'll combine.
The rats just completely engross Starro, because Starro has that, this is my city now, and she's like, it's not your city, it's not ours either, it belongs to someone else. And then like these millions of rats come out of nowhere, beckoned by her, and overrun Starro, but they can't do anything really to it other than completely distract it temporarily. And then Harley just leaps from the heights and dives straight through its
with the
eyeball.
javelin.
With the javelin. So we got Chekhov's javelin.
Yep.
And
she understands the purpose now.
And then Gunn is able to slow it down, but without ruining the pace, and just give us this beautiful shot of her floating in eye juice.
So gross.
And kind of looking around, but with Harley Quinn's eyes, she's just, part of her is like, I have to kill this thing that's going to kill us all. But the biggest part of her is, wow, I'm in eye juice. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It
like
looks
there's this
really pretty.
wonderment of it. But then the rats end up doing the work for her.
And it's like the rats are swimming, and it is a strangely pretty scene, even though like they're eating like its optical nerves and shit.
Yeah. Yep.
But I was going to say, like, what a beautiful message that point says, because as she is doing that, they'd also do a quick flashback of her as a kid with her dad, played by Taika Waititi, who plays Ratcatcher 1. And she's like, why rats, Dad? And she's like, rats are the lowliest and most despised of creatures. If they have a purpose, so do we all. And that is like, I feel like that's the big message that they're trying to lay upon this particular group of the Suicide Squad. Like, even though they're these despised, lowly, low thought of criminals, they have a purpose. And isn't that's such a beautiful message?
That's one of the parts that I cried, and I was really shocked about it, because Taika's got that, just that way to hit you with whatever line he's got. Even when he's playing Hitler, you know what I mean? It just makes your ears perk up. I guess I don't have much more to talk about other than I have a few questions for you guys. What was your favorite moment? And let's start with Andy. And be aware that your favorite action sequence is a separate question, and maybe that won't work.
Okay. I can do it. Okay. Well, then you go first.
Steve, what is your favorite moment of the film?
My favorite moment is the Pixies song. So they play "Hey" by the Pixies, and it's the scene from the trailer where it's all the Suicide Squad walking in the rain, and it's like definitely the hero shot. Like the band's together. Here we're coming together to
Harley's eating
kick
the
off
apple
the third.
And looks at Rick Flag.
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys caught this. I caught this on my second viewing, and it made me laugh. So that shot where it's all of them lined up in a row walking towards camera, on the far right is Milton walking with them. That's awesome. That sequence. It looks really funny because he actually looks badass.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of something that George...
I love that scene. Sorry.
It reminds me of something that George Lucas once said. And it was like someone asked him, like, because he approves, the character design for all Star Wars movies, right? As all directors do. You go to the art department, you're like, yes, I like that design. And someone asked him about that, and he said, the key to picking out a good character design is making sure that those characters are instantly recognizable based off their silhouette. And that shot is a perfect example of that, because, you've got the obvious silhouette of like King Shark, but then Ratcatcher 2, even though she doesn't do this in the movie at all, in that shot, she's kind of huddled over and looks almost like in this rat-like pose.
Yeah.
Which she doesn't do the entire movie, but the reason why she's doing it in the context of that shot is it's raining and she's using her coat to like kind of block the rain a little bit. But it gives her that silhouette of a rat. And it's a really smart, small thing to do. And then you go down the line and see all the other characters who got their iconic looks, like the Thinker, played by Peter Capaldi, has all that shit come out of his head to make his brain good.
Yeah, I love that disdain. Yes, it makes my brain good.
I know we didn't talk about Peter Capaldi, but he's in it. He's not in it a lot, but I wish he was in it more because I love Peter Capaldi. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and anytime I get to see those attack eyebrows, I'm all in. Yankee fucking doodle dandies. I love him. But yeah, that's my favorite part. And you get to listen to Hey by the Pixies, which is a banger.
Super bop. Super bop, even though they edited it differently.
I got to say that I think my favorite scene is the Harley monologue after she kills, you said his name's Luna. I think that was like the most Gunnian sequence of the whole show, a whole movie, where we get like comedy and much deeper heartfelt context and character development and gruesome action all at once. You know, this dude's fucking gasping, bleeding, crawling across the floor, and we're getting this like think piece into Harley's psyche that's also a gag because of the context of what's going on. And I think that's as Gunnian as it gets. So yeah, that's got to be it for me. That's one of the scenes that I cried at, and it's such a weird thing to cry at, but I thought that it was just so effective.
Yeah, Margot Robbie, I think, is a lot of times you can see people that just like won't let a character go, or they're getting paid so much, or whatever the case may be. But this is one instance where she's truly growing with the character. You can tell that she knows the character of Harleen Quinzel better and better each time, and you can tell that she's excited to explore other facets of it, and it's fun to watch.
Faucets, like big fan water faucets?
Yes, indeed. Facets. Yeah, awesome.
Chris, your favorite?
My favorite moment is the moment that we talked about, where they all come into the tent and find Rick Flag
drinking tea.
Yeah, drinking tea. And then we have that comedic sequence of like, all the freedom fighters saved me. And they all look at each other like, fuck. Oh, we didn't see it. How did you get past my guards?
There's nobody. I didn't see anybody.
Second watch, I caught Ratcatcher 2 is actually the funniest, because I think Bloodsport says we didn't see anybody or something. And she kind of like mumbles, yeah, they must have all went out. Or, you know what I mean? Like, super funny moment, and I did not expect that. It was awesome. Super well done. And it's rare to make it funny that you just murdered the 14 innocent people, but he did. It was hilarious. Yep. So, okay. That brings me to my next question. Who is your favorite character in this film? Andy.
Oh, Ratcatcher 2.
Wow. Ratcatcher 2. Easy. Sure. No contest. Steve, who's your favorite character in Suicide Squad?
Man, that is such a hard question because they're all so good. I guess Ratcatcher 2 is amazing. She's so good at it. And like, a close second would be John Cena.
No close seconds.
Performance, it would definitely be John Cena. He hit it so many different ways.
Yeah.
He's like,
do you guys are really that struck by John Cena's performance in this film?
We forgot to mention the scene, the scene where King Shark tries to eat Ratcatcher 2, and they all wake up and they confront him about it, and John Cena just kind of strolls up wearing nothing but like tighty whities. And okay, John Cena's ripped, right?
Yes.
He's a physical specimen.
He is.
There is nothing in that scene that is sexy about what he's doing. Like it is complete comedy. Just this giant of a man in tighty white. He's like, oh, what are we doing over here?
Yeah.
She says, I was having the most wonderful dream. He said, if it was a dream of you getting eaten by King Shark, then you're psychic.
Yeah.
I love that line so much.
I mean, he just impressed me more than anything in terms of, because I know he's funny. He's always a funny guy, but like when you compare what he's doing in the role here and what he was doing in, say, like Fast 9, and again, that's more a
that's
direction.
a bad example.
That's a bad example because that's 100% down to direction and script writing of why he's trying to be the Terminator in F9, be this like stoic.
I think
dude.
F9 was the only time he wasn't Peacemaker in a movie, and it was bad. Is my like negative take.
I mean, he's been in a ton of straight to DVD action flicks, and I've never seen any of them, but I assume he's that type of guy.
But in Blockers, like he's always like an actual tough guy who's kind of an idiot and says shit like, I'll butt chug beer right now, and like kind of catches what he's saying the next day.
But like, but that scene where he's struggling with having to kill Rick Flag. And
that was good. That was good. But I'm thinking like, I'll suck every dick on this beach if I have to for liberty. Like that's always who he is.
I 100% agree. But that one scene was like, oh my gosh.
True. I'll give you that.
Doing more. Okay.
So are you going Peacemaker?
No, I'm going to go with Ratcatcher.
You're going with Ratcatcher 2. Damn it. I can't just say Ratcatcher 2 as well.
You can. Here, I'll change mine to Idris Elba because, you can't go wrong with Idris.
Are we going a unanimous Ratcatcher 2?
I feel like it has to be.
It has to be Ratcatcher 2.
That's right. You're right.
And it's amazing because that actress,
Blackguard.
this is the first...
Weasel.
This is the first big movie for her. Like, she's in like a bunch of, smaller...
international films.
International films. This is the first big...
American movie, damn it.
So it finally counts.
Yeah, I'm excited for her. I'm sure she got like 50,000 followers in the past week, and she's going to be a star. She's going to be a star. See it, didn't I?
Star.
I'll go with Ratcatcher 2 as well. We forgot to talk about, I have one more question, but we didn't talk about the hilarious, we're talking about subversion of expectation. Weasel just falling out of the plane and drowning because nobody thought to ask if he could swim.
Nobody checked to see if Weasel could swim.
And the comedic beat after he asks that of Viola Davis looking at like the Jurassic Park computer guy, you know what I mean? Like
Steve Agee.
Yeah, just looking over right at him real slowly. And he draws a few things out, but in a way that's not David Lowery-esque. It's just for a reason. And so she just slowly looks over at him like, that was your job. And he's kind of looking sheepishly like, fuck, thought he could swim.
And the girl next to him just got her hand on her forehead watching this thing drown.
And
like, it's so fucked
in the
up.
background for that entire long shot, you can watch on the video footage of him drowning and flailing. It's great. It's super well done.
Fucked up.
Anyway. Oh, did you guys think it was fun? I chuckled at this in the movie. Like after that first scene plays and everybody dies, then they do the title credits for the opening title credits where they're like zooming around and they've got that "Everyone Who Died" song playing.
Yeah.
But that's when like the credits for like Pete Davidson and Nathan Fillion, like all those characters, they get their name in the title card, but they're already fucking dead.
Yeah.
I found that really funny.
That was awesome.
My next question, my final question, what is your favorite action sequence of this film, of which there are many? Andy.
Okay, so I'm going to struggle to determine whether or not this is an action sequence, but that sequence of the killing of the freedom fighters all the way up to the punchline that it's revealed that they were freedom fighters.
It's 100% an action sequence.
It was fucking hysterical and brutal, and it was a cool like characterization of Idris Elba and John Cena's characters, and brutally violent at sometimes. And you also see that like, oh yeah, they're both actually really fucking good at what they do, because this is the first time we see them do anything. And it was just fucking hysterical and brutal. I think that I think that's got to be it. I'm trying to think of any others that come anywhere close. I think that the overwhelming force when you get to, is it called Starro?
Starro.
Yes.
Starro the Conqueror.
It was actually pretty like fucked up at times, like the way that they directed like the voice coming out of the just whoever, you know what I mean? And it's like, this is ours.
Yeah, because it would shoot the baby tentacles onto an unsuspecting.
What?
It would shoot like its little bodies out of it. And it would latch onto their face, and then now it controlled them.
Yeah,
but I guess they.
I love when you got to see what it was like, what a head looked like after the star was peeled off, and it was just this like munched off face.
Yeah.
But I love that they made a kaiju starfish legitimately terrifying. It would have been so easy to have that be like a Power Rangers thing, but it was a legitimately terrifying creature. Do you know what I mean? Through the eyes of Ratcatcher 2 specifically is where it starts, because I'm like, oh shit.
So like a lot of the action in the sequence dealing up to the conclusion with fighting Starro was great. I also want to give a specific shout out to the shot where Bloodsport finally kills Peacemaker. And it was another payoff from the script from way earlier with
smaller bullets,
using smaller bullets. Yeah. Specifically when he gets shot in the neck, like the way that he bled out was fucking like it struck me.
It was
like
a lot.
It was a lot of blood, but it wasn't like Tarantino, a lot of blood. It was like, that's probably more than real, but like, and maybe part of that came down to sound design. I don't know, but I was like,
there's a lot of squishes and crunches in
he
this
killed
movie.
the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
Like,
actually, it's interesting. On my second watch of the movie, I noticed the part at the end, like, so after he shoots Peacemaker and they're like, they've decided they're going to take down Starro, and Waller's like, you motherfuckers, I'll blow your heads off. Turn around right now. When she opens up the briefcase, Peacemaker's light's still on, indicating that he's still alive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which is obviously the end credit scene that they reveal that he survives. But I caught that on a second view. I'm like, oh, cool. They did the thing. That's a good attention to detail.
Nice.
That is clever. That's super clever. Steve, what's your favorite action set piece?
It's the jungle scene where they accidentally kill all the freedom fighters. That scene's so funny. The action's a little weird because they're playing it as if they're being stealthy, but they're 100% not.
Like I was telling Andy that as one of my nits I didn't mention.
They're lighting people on fire.
Yeah, they set dudes on fire,
and they're screaming, and then they like turn around, and there's like another group of 3 dudes who are like, huh? Oh, there's guys like 5 feet to our right.
At one point, 2 of them were drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, just staring at the pole in front of them, like kind of leaning on it, what appears to be the infirmary. Like, why is he staring at that pole? Both of them, they're each staring at separate poles to get their. It doesn't matter.
It's a little silly, but when you stand back and like think of it super critically like that, yeah, it's stupid, but like in the moment, it's very funny and it plays really well. But that's my favorite action scene.
I kind of cheated because I used that as my favorite moment. Just specifically, I chose the punchline so that it wouldn't be actiony, so I could use that as my favorite moment. But there's so many good moments in this movie. Anyway, it was just like for fun. But my favorite action set piece on a second watch is Harley Quinn going bananas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is a really good scene.
She breaks out with her feet. Tarantino would have been proud, and she unlocks her stuff. She pretends to be. I love if you're a huge fan of Harley Quinn, which I am. You know that she's been through her fair share of torture and electrocution, and so watching that when they're using their little stupid batons to torture her, that she's 100% unfazed by this. Right? She, if anything, she's like enjoys it. And so when they leave her alone, she kills the 2 guys, and she runs out and she puts her fucking iconic pigtails in and like puts some boots on, and like I'm just so ready. And then she mows down about 30 people without breaking a sweat. Like it's fun in a way that's fun for her, and with such a flourish. She finds the javelin and she like kicks off the wall, and it's just this like kind of a side scroll video game for a second going down this hallway.
She's making everyone explode in flowers.
And I love the idea that with her childlike mind, she sees all this blood spurts and stuff as flowers exploding, right? And I think that that's supposed to be from her perspective and why she's able to keep such a good demeanor during carnage. And I really love that. It's really beautiful, but also like a good insight into her character. Anyway,
and
I love
it was
that
such a nice touch when she does escape, and there are shots of her talking to Bloodsport and Rick Flag, and in the background, way out of focus, you can still see inside of the building, and it's still got like all the flowers and stuff floating around, but you can only kind of see it. And it's like that also lends into like seeing into her psyche, and like she's like, I did a good thing back there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I made it real pretty in there. I can go back in if you guys still want to do it. Love that. That's my favorite action scene.
I want to change my answer. I think that it's probably the best one.
Can I change my answer for favorite character?
Yes.
That's Sebastian. I just feel like we haven't talked about Sebastian yet. I feel like he deserves a shout out. Her rat.
Yeah, we got a lot of Ratatouille this last couple weeks.
That scene where they're about to attempt to break Harley out of the prison and they're getting ready is such a great little snippet as to who these characters are, because Rick Flag's leading them, Polka Dot Man is being super awkward, Ratcatcher's using Sebastian to like Sebastian the rat is signaling like all clear on the third floor, and always like Bird he's thinking about eating.
Nanawe, I love that everybody's like all clear on West Wing. Yep, we're clear up north. Bird. Nanawe, get off the comms.
And then like John Cena's like, I got a clear shot on the only target on the floor, and it's the fucking like cleaning staff. Like this poor innocent person who has nothing to do with what's happening. Which, by the way, that line reading
a piece of shit.
Nanawe, get off the comms. It reminds me of you every time. I don't know why. Like I just feel like that sounds like you. Like in his delivery, I'm like, oh, that sounds like Chris to me.
Oh, I thought it was like something that I do in the show. That's fair.
Steve, get off the pod.
I'll take Rick Flag. It's better than Polka Dot Man. Polka Dot Man reminds me so much of you, Chris. You seem so disturbed and socially inept.
You have real deep-seated mother issues.
All in all, oh, by the way, you saying that, there's on my second watch, it's beautifully written. It is perfectly performed. It is so intense. There's this line, and it's so good that the character falls in love with her, and the audience does as well. They're on the bus, and they're sharing all this backstory and exposition. And at this point, nobody has gotten through the icy demeanor of Bloodsport yet, right? And he says something mean to Ratcatcher too. He says, I feel like you've just got some deep-seated daddy issues. And he thinks that's a good line. And she says, I have no issues with how much I love my father. And like, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Like, I love my daddy. It doesn't fucking bother me one bit. You know what I mean? Like, it's beautiful. It's such a good line. And it's so good that it melts him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wants his daughter to love him like that. He's like, shit, you're right. There's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really
like,
cool.
You saying that reminded me of all these things we haven't even touched on, like his relationship with his daughter, specifically like what happened to Taika and like her relationship with the rat and why like she loves rats and the fact that he has a phobia against rats. Yeah. And like how that puts them at odds.
Isn't it crazy? This movie's only 2 hours long and they fully flesh out 7 or 8 characters, give them all arcs, fill it with action. I mean, I'm not just being a fanboy here. Like, this is an incredible achievement, what he was able to do with this film. Yeah, all he had was $300 million. How the fuck did he do it?
Damn.
Dude, I think at the end of the day, this film's going to be remembered like as fondly as like The Dark Knight or something, as like one of the premier best superhero movies of all time. You know what I mean?
I absolutely agree, dude. It knocked it out of the park in every possible way, except for that fucking hard drive.
100%. So I guess that's the Streaming Things review of The Suicide Squad. Next week, we'll be talking about What If and some other things. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for streaming if you did it. My name is Chris.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
Happy streaming. Classic mistake. We will never catch that in a way that is believable.
That was lightning in a bottle, dude. Fuck.
No, I'm the worst.
Hello, friend. Thank you so much for contributing to
This is the content you can look forward to.
That was good. I didn't do that on purpose either.
I know. All right, hold on. Here we go. Here we go. We're gonna reset. Here we go.